President Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed the Ministry of Education to direct school children for a fitness examination before any sports tournaments. Presidential Media Coordinating Secretary Vijayananda Herath says that the Ministry of Education, Health and Sports have been instructed to formulate an effective joint program for this purpose. The President had also instructed officials to coordinate this through teachers in charge of sports, principals and zonal education directors. Councillor of the Sri Lanka Permanent Mission in Geneva, Priyanka Wickramasinghe, says that Sri Lanka should be encouraged in its reconciliation process rather than being singled out for any disproportionate attention in the Human Rights Council. Wickramasinghe made this statement by exercising a right to reply to a statement made by US Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations Esther Bremer during the high-level segment of the 22nd Human Rights Council yesterday.
Esther Bremer, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations, speaking at the 22nd UN Human Rights Council session in Geneva yesterday, said that the Council's work remains unfinished so long as Sri Lanka continues to fall short in implementing the recommendations of its own Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission report or in addressing the underlying sources of its long-standing ethnic conflict. Bremer added, quote, "Last year's HRC resolution encouraged brave civil society groups on the ground to continue their efforts, and the United States will introduce another resolution at this session to ensure that the international community continues to monitor progress," unquote. In response, Councillor of the Sri Lanka Permanent Mission in Geneva, Priyanka Wickramasinghe, said that Sri Lanka is implementing a comprehensive process of reconciliation involving all communities based on the National Action Plan on the implementation of the recommendations of the LLRC. Speaking yesterday, Wickramasinghe said that Sri Lanka strongly rejects any unfair, unbiased, unprincipled and unjust approach that may be adopted by the Human Rights Council towards the protection and promotion of human rights of Sri Lanka. Councillor of the Sri Lanka Permanent Mission in Geneva, Priyanka Wickramasinghe, reiterated that Sri Lanka is firmly of the view that this council should not embark upon or encourage either debate or any country-specific resolution by virtue of a singled-out process which would run counter to the founding principles which govern the mandate of the council. Wickramasinghe said doing so will clearly reflect an application of double standards.
Meanwhile, Dennis Rollins, the Senior Deputy Assistant Administrator of the Asia Bureau of the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, says that there is room for more progress in Sri Lanka in terms of resettlement of IDPs and reconciliation. She made this observation during a media briefing convened in Colombo today.
I think we all know that there are still areas that need to be addressed. In terms of some of the resettlements, I mean, some have been resettled, but others are still not on their land. There are serious land issues, serious security issues, particularly for women in the north. So there's a lot of progress that's been made, but there is room for more.